Okay, here are some statistics extracted from the book that I would like to share with you. In 1908, the world record for Olympics marathon was 2 hours, 55 minutes and 18 seconds. Today, as of when the book was written, the world record is 2 hours, 2 minutes and 57 seconds. And if you are an 18 to 34-year-old male, you're not even allowed to enter the Boston Marathon unless you've run another marathon in less than 3 hours, 5 minutes. In other words, the world record set in 1908 will only barely qualify you for participation. In the same 1908 Olympics, one of the divers barely avoided serious injury by attempting the double somersault, which was considered dangerous. Today, the double somersault is just an entry level, with 10-year-olds nailing it at competitions. In 1973, a Canadian has memorized 511 digits of the pi. And 5 years later, his record was bested by an American who memorized 10,000 digits of the pi. Then, in 2015, an Indian memorized a staggering 70,000 digits of the pi, which took about 9 hours to recite the whole string. This was actually recorded, so it's true. And therefore, humans have this untapped potential that can be brought out to create breakthroughs throughout our lives. The only limit we have is the limit we give ourselves. There's this interesting case study in a book about taxi drivers in London. Why taxi drivers and why London, right? Now, London is one of the cities in the world that even GPS could be confused. And the taxi drivers in London have to go through very strict tests in order to get their license. They have to not only remember the places within a 6-mile radius of Charing Cross, they also have to know what is the shortest route for the customer to move from point A to point B. Therefore, their memory and navigation skills have interested psychologists a lot, and they want to learn more about them. So they did a scan on the brain of taxi drivers and compare it to a group of males in similar age group. And what they found was that at the hippocampus, the part of the brain that's involved in the development of memories, was larger in taxi drivers than the group of males. They also did a comparison between taxi drivers and bus drivers and noticed the same difference. They conclude from this experiment that the larger hippocampus in the taxi drivers is not a result of driving but navigation. Because the bus driver follows a fixed route, right? While the taxi drivers have to navigate for every single customer. Then they did one last test for a group of people who were going for the taxi driver license test. Okay, and they did one brain scan before they go for the test and noted the results. 4 years later, they get all these people back and did a brain scan on all of them again and found that for the group who passed the test, got the license and carried on with their driving, their hippocampus was larger. It grew more. And for those who passed the test but did not carry on and use their license to work as taxi drivers, their hippocampus was more or less the same. It didn't change much. And also for those who failed the test and were doing other things, their hippocampus was also not any difference from the day they were scanned 4 years earlier. This reminded me of the book I shared earlier, where I mentioned about how our brain cells at birth are largely disorganized, unlike all other organs of our bodies, and how it can produce new cells and make new connections to other cells throughout our lives. So, can you see how amazing our brain is? It shows that practice can bring us to a status or level of an expert performer, even if we are not blessed with talents or gifts. So the question is, what kind of practice can we do to allow us to become a master or expert in our field? One way to get us to mastery is through purposeful practice. So how is purposeful practice different from the practice that we know or do, which is doing things repeatedly and expecting things to improve? Purposeful practice has 4 characteristics. The first characteristic is well-defined and specific goals. Now, coming back to the example of Steve, who has remembered this 82-digit string, right? His well-defined and specific goals are to remember more digits than he can remember in the previous session, right? The second characteristic is focus. The main point here is we seldom improve much if we don't give our full attention or focus on the things that we want to improve, isn't it? The third is feedback. Feedback provides information on where exactly is the area in which we need to correct or pay attention to. In Steve's example, his feedback is direct from Dr. Anders, where he tells him it's a correct or incorrect. The fourth is it requires us to get out of our comfort zone. And this is a fundamental truth about any practice. If we are not pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zone, there will not be any improvement. Take an earlier example I gave on the security guard. He can be guarding the guardhouse for several years to accumulate that 10,000 hours. But if he do nothing different about it, he will never improve. Think about this. If he has worked there for 10 years, does he have 10 years of experience or 1 year of experience repeated 10 times? Here's an interesting example on Benjamin Franklin. Now, do you know that he is a very good chess player and an excellent writer? The only thing I know about him before I read this book was that about he and his lightning kite and key experiment, right? But after reading this, I know that he has passion in chess as well as writing. However, he took 2 different approaches in these 2 areas. In the areas of chess, he spent thousands of hours playing against others. And even though he was an above average player, he didn't get good enough to be compared with the better players in Europe, not to say world class. What he did in chess was merely practicing or just playing. It didn't have any well-defined goals. It didn't have any focus on improving. It didn't have the feedback, and he did not get out of his comfort zone. Now, it is very different for him in the area of writing. He was very deliberate in his practice for this. He has specific goals and plans for his article to be as clear and as detailed as the ones he admired. And he's very focused and got out of his comfort zone by expanding his vocabulary and doing a range of other exercises that he knew he was lacking in, and he improves on that. Even though he does not have a mentor or a teacher to give him valuable feedback, but he knows where he's lacking in, and he improves on the mistakes that he made. This made him become one of the most admired writers of early America. And this is the difference between practice and purposeful practice. I hope this video has brought value to you. If it did, give me a thumbs up, comment below, or share it with a friend you care about, because you're not just sharing a video, you're sharing content that could make a difference in people's lives. And remember to hit the subscribe button or the notification bell to be notified of my weekly learnings from the books I've read on relationship, business, and personal development. Thank you. Do check out these other books I've reviewed. I hope they'll bring more value to you, inspire you to bring out your best potential. Do hit the subscribe button and be part of the journey to inspire learning. Beyond here, wishing you well and see you in the next video.